build and maintain and nurture your professional network. They're probably going to be important for a lot of different things, but if we're just talking about boards, they will absolutely be essential for your board career today and your board career in the future. And if hopefully we have 5, 10, 20, maybe 30 years of board career ahead of us, it's absolutely essential to build that.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Yes, we are back and we are ready. This is going to be a fantastic conversation. And I will say, one that we have not had yet on the show. And we have neared or passed, depending on when this airs, over 400 episodes, and we have not talked about this topic. But it is vital for you, the senior level marketer at CMO, that VP of marketing, for those that hopefully aspire to get there one day. But who are we talking to? Well, she is a leader, a thought leader, an inspirer, a mentor, an advisor. What has she done? Who is she advising? Hundreds of senior professionals on how to build a board career, a topic that I've always wondered about but never been able to explore. Over 22 years of experience with multiple boards, advisory boards, boards of directors, all kinds of boards, profit, nonprofit, you name it. And she's been doing retreats and speaking and advisory service, all these things, and we get to learn from her today. Founder and CEO of the Boardroom company, Naomi Kent. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Casey. Thank you for having me.
Man, this is a fantastic topic. I can't wait to learn. I'm going to pass you this thing. It's heavy for me, but I know you're tough from all those boards, so here you go. Okay, go ahead, grab Thor's hammer. You want to grab that? You got it? Okay. Wow, that was impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, one-handed grab of Thor's hammer. This is a strong Ford advisor here. Only take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest myths that I hear from CMOs and others is that CMOs don't get onto boards. And that they're not CEOs, so they don't get onto boards. And this is absolutely a myth. One of the things that I think boards are looking for today is not just general business experience, which CMOs have, but in a recent BDO survey of a number of very important board directors, there was an overwhelming response of how they need people who understand digital, people who understand technology, people who understand how businesses generate cash, how they grow. And so this leads directly to the role of the CMO and the experience and the talents of CMOs. I know a number of CMOs who have joined boards, and it's certainly a myth that people may be talking about. So that would be the big one.
Oh man, this is exciting to hear. Finally, the important folks at the top of those large organizations are realizing, we need someone with all these things, the digital, the tech, understanding the cash, understanding how a company grows. Where does growth come from? There are certain things you have to do. And finally, the board realizes, man, we need some people like this on there. And the CMO finally gets some attention to get on the board. Where does this come from that people aren't really aware? Like the origin of this myth. Why aren't more people aware that CMOs would be perfect for this role?
Well, I think when you think about how businesses have evolved, right, over the last 10 years, there's been an increasing demand for people who can handle a crisis, who can handle a reputation crisis, who understand how technology interacts with sales, with all the different parts of the business. So I think certainly the CMO sits right in the middle of all of that. And you think about cyber threats and risks that arrive in the company. I just think that they're really sitting right in the middle of it. But I would say this, I just think a lot of CMOs perhaps aren't going after the opportunities. Because again, I think because of the myth of them thinking, hey, this is just a CEO play or a CFO play. I hear that a lot. I hear, I'm not a finance person. I'm not a CFO. Sure, you need to know about finance, right? You need to feel confident understanding a P&L, understanding how businesses operate. If you're a CMO and you have managed a P&L of any size, the bigger the better, but any size, you instantly have a lot of credibility and value to bring to a board. And then the other piece is really corporate strategy. And I think that the CMOs are also very heavily involved in that, right? In those conversations. And so it's really about how do CMOs market themselves and bring forward their value proposition so that they can actually get these opportunities. And then finally, I want to sort of throw something else in there, which is in the last sort of 20 years, I'd say it's sort of 20 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of academics used to sit on boards. So you would have, and this is in all industries, by the way, not just, I mean, legacy pharma, right? You have a lot of academics in pharma and some of those more research heavy industries. But now that role seems to be less and less a part of a board, of the makeup of the board. Who they're bringing in are more of the operators. So it's sort of like a shift, right, in the boards, but it's also a shift in the CMOs who are now thinking, actually, I do stand a chance of being on a board. I see my peers joining boards. And so a lot of it is about really, are the opportunities there? Do I have the confidence to go after it? And also the companies are demanding more and more of the skills.
This makes total sense. I can see why it's shifting. People are coming to their senses. Academics are great, but my favorite professors were always the ones who either currently have a project that has gone commercial or they have an extensive history of doing that and they're blending the two. Otherwise, you're right. You need the operators. Man, brilliant. And I really am dying to get to the part about getting prepared and getting ready to go after this. But I want to take a quick sidetrack to say, if other than the fact that it sounds cool, what are the benefits of being on a board?
Yeah, good. It's a good question because why would anyone even want to be on a board, right? Like, what's in it for me?
Right.
So there are a few reasons. I would say I have a survey that I give to my clients before they work with me, and it's generally kind of an assessment. And when the first question is, what is motivating you to join a board? And some of the answers are, I want to make money, which is generally, again, if you're starting out in your board career, I don't think it's going to change your wallet size, but eventually it could be quite lucrative and you could actually have a full-time board career in your, let's call it retirement, just for the sake of it. Some people say it's a learning experience. What brings joy to them is learning and being still part of business, not being retired and just sleeping during the day, but actually being awake and being active. Another reason is it brings purpose. People enjoy that. The lifelong learner piece is actually very common among board directors and people who go into this area. They want to be continually learning, as you can imagine, even if you're in your 50s and your 60s and even into your 70s. If you're a continuous learner, you will want to know about technology. You will want to learn about how it impacts your business and different threats such as cybersecurity and cyber threats, which may not have been as common 30, 40 years ago. I would say one of the other reasons why people want to join boards is, let's say you're at a very early stage of your career. And I'll tell you a quick story. I actually worked with a marketing director back in 2018, and she was looking to start her board career. And I said to her, you may want to consider some community boards or something where you can actually go and learn about governance and learn what it's like to be in a board meeting. It increases your confidence and it expands your network. But what it also can do is it can actually elevate your brand. at your executive role. So for anyone listening here who's at the director, marketing director role, I would encourage you to think about industry associations and professional associations. What she did is she joined the American Marketing Association, the local one for her particular city, which is a very large city. But she joined that one. She got speaking engagements. She had a lot of people who were calling her. She increased her brand, right, immediately, because not only was she the director of marketing of a large brand, but she's also on the board of the American Marketing Association. And she actually took advantage of that. She built great relationships with actually got her to a promotion to a new job about 2 or maybe 3 or 4 years later. I forget exactly when it was, but she and I worked in 2018. But there's a great example of someone who wanted to get ahead, who was ambitious. Now, take a step forward and think about the CMOs out there who want to get onto corporate boards. For your own personal, professional development, I think it's essential. When you're a CMO, you're very in the business. You're in your own world. You're very focused on what you're doing. Being in a board meeting of another corporation will open your eyes to all the different parts of the business. You'll be sitting next to a CFO of a company and you'll hear the questions that they ask. You'll be sitting next to the CEO of a completely different industry, and they may make a comment about something they're doing. This may be valuable insight that you bring back to your firm. So it's a benefit actually to the firm and to the individual. So a lot of C-suite people that I work with, Casey, they actually come to me because their companies have encouraged them to join a corporate board. And that's a new phenomenon. This did not happen 10 years ago. But today, more and more companies are seeing the value of their executives sitting on one board, not more than one, just one board, because they can bring back insights, bring back experience. They create amazing networks. And it's just a wonderful learning experience. And if they can support them through that, that's a learning and development opportunity, right, for them. So there's a lot of different ways that you and the company that you're working for can benefit from it. And then I will mention one other thing. For a lot of people who are maybe fractional CMOs or consultants in marketing who might be listening as well, a lot of value in joining a board, because it's, again, you might be doing more of a portfolio career. So you might be doing more than one thing, fractional, maybe some interim, maybe some consulting. And so what boards can do is they can provide you with new networks, new engagements, new opportunities, and also give you that additional elevated brand, right? Serving on a board takes time. It's not easy. It's something that we all are striving to do, but not all of us are able to serve on boards. But for those of you in that C-suite role, corporate boards are in your sight. And so it's all about getting ready and prepared to take on those opportunities.
Sounds like it is definitely the mix of personal edification, learning, growth, possibly some wealth opportunities, but also mixed in with that giving back and wanting to share of your knowledge and take on some responsibility of something outside of yourself. I see the balance. So there are some great personal benefits, but also it sounds like it is pretty core that you're trying to help out this other group.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to figure that out as well as a CMO, figure out what it is that is driving you, and really hone in on that. And I think another very big piece of advice that I would give to everyone on the call today is build and maintain and nurture your professional network. They're probably going to be important for a lot of different things, but if we're just talking about boards, they will absolutely be essential for your board career today and your board career in the future. And if hopefully we have 5, 10, 20, maybe 30 years of board career ahead of us, it's absolutely essential to build that.
Well, I mean, this has me intrigued.
Would you like to hear my other myth, Casey? Just one more.
Yes, please.
There is
You still have the hammer. So.
Yeah, I know. I do have it. And it's mine was my left hand as well. Looks like my right, but it's actually my left.
That's impressive.
There's a lot of talk about, you need a certification. I know for people in marketing, and actually for a lot of people, there are certain certifications that you need in order to get ahead in your career. There's project management certifications, there's marketing certifications, product and technology certifications. You do not need a certification to get onto a board. A certification may make you more confident in the area that you're going to go into. So if you said, hey, I know nothing about boards, I don't even know what a board is, I've never seen one or met anybody from a board, I would say encourage you, yes, go do a certification on governance, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. But for those of you who have already presented to boards, that's a big, big step. For those of you who may have been on a nonprofit board, another huge step. A board certification is not going to help you get onto a board. It is just further education. So I just want to make that very clear. I get that question a lot, Casey. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's definitely so. Yeah, it sounds like it's the experience you have, not these things on the wall or whatnot. So
That's right. And it's also how you kind of pitch yourself, right? Like, what is your value proposition? So I often use this analogy. I use the tennis and pickleball analogy. I don't know if you play either of those. Do you?
well, Wii tennis, yes, and I do want to pick up pickleball at some point.
Okay, well, let's take the Wii tennis example, right? That's actually even better. So you play Wii tennis, and you talk to me about how you play Wii tennis, and you're so good, and you got onto level 256, right? And you got 3,000 points, and in a grand competition, you came first. But I say to you, hey, Casey, we're going to go play pickleball next weekend. Do you want to join? You go, yeah, I'd love to, but let me tell you about my Wii tennis. Okay, so you start telling me how good you are at Wii tennis, and I'm sitting here going, all right, I'm struggling here because we're going to play pickleball, but he keeps talking about Wii tennis. And I know there's some commonalities, but you haven't quite explained it to me. So what you might want to say to me is, hey, Naomi, that's great. I'd love to play pickleball. Hey, so I've played Wii tennis before, and here are the things I'm really good at. Eye to hand, eye to hand, instant, connection or whatever it is. I am really good at ball sports. I know because I do Wii tennis. I really like being outside, even though Wii tennis is indoors. I love being outside, and here's why. I'm also pretty fast on my feet. I can run. And then finally, I love playing with teams. That's what I love doing. Now I know, and I feel better about you joining my pickleball group, right? It's just natural. So for people who show up to talk about how they are as a board director, but they talk about themselves as an executive, it's exactly the same problem where I have to now figure out how you're going to fit onto my board just by getting to know you for 20 seconds about your executive career. So what I encourage people to do is think about the Wii tennis. I'm going to use Wii tennis from now on, but the Wii tennis and pickleball example where you are explaining how you play a completely different sport to someone who's asking you to play something else. So think about what is your value proposition to boards, learn the role and responsibilities of board directors, and start to make the connection when you speak to people. So rather than saying, I'm a CMO, I do CMO things, start to say, hey, I'm a board director, I'm a marketing expert. I know how to go, I have overseen go-to-market strategies, right? I understand digital transformation, and I know how to grow companies and transform them and mitigate risk. The conversation that you have to have has to be board level. So that's just a little bit about kind of the pitch. And I would say the verbal pitch is probably the most important thing for CMOs and anyone really.
And leading with that and having some elements of that to get people thinking, and don't hide from it. That's really, yeah, having your own elevator. It's time to start selling yourself now.
That's right. That's right. And when you know what kind of boards you want to join, which is another big question for people, often they don't know what kind of board they want to join, but knowing the type of board that is right for you, knowing your direction, it's now makes it a lot easier for you to create that value proposition. So
that makes a lot of sense. So let's keep talking about like how we get. We talked about the fact that CMOs are sought after. We've talked about why. Actually, before we get too much into the strategies to get on there, any why nots? Are there any downsides? Are you financially responsible for the company? Are there any risks of being on a board?
There are, yeah, of course. I mean, as a fiduciary, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the company.
Okay.
So you work, you are serving the shareholders and stakeholders. If you find that you have made a mistake and it is found out that you did it deliberately, then there are issues and you have to, but you have insurance. There's something called D&O insurance that everybody gets. And so you are covered. That's not to say, hey, you can just go out and, do whatever you want and make mistakes. But if you have made a mistake and it was a genuine mistake, so you advise the company to make a huge purchase, right? A huge acquisition, and that didn't work out. Fine. That wasn't necessarily, you weren't doing that out of bad will. But yes, there are of course responsibilities. When you go into larger companies, you have a public profile now, right? So they could be digging into your past, knowing more about your family. You're just going to be more visible. If you're not ready for that, then boards are definitely not for you. Publicly traded companies are probably at the top of that in terms of liability and work that you need to do, and of course the public profile, right? Because publicly traded companies are, all the information is available, it is out there. So you just have to be ready for that. That's for sure.
And on that note about the public companies, are you familiar with Dana White from the UFC?
Yes.
He was invited to be on the Meta board. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think when companies hire people to be on their boards, there are a number of different reasons why they choose them. And it is not always an obvious one until you start to think about the strategy of the business. Boards should be there to guide the CEO and the leadership team on their strategic future journey, and evaluating and commenting and providing insight on the future, right? And how they should build the company. I'll give you a quick example. Some companies have board members that you wouldn't have thought, right, have the board members they have, but when you realize why, you can understand. So let me talk a little bit about why boards bring in certain types of people and what that means. So I'll give a couple of examples. On the board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, there are a lot of people who have connections to the United Nations, who have connections globally, right? A lot of people who have government connections, the Council on Foreign Relations, right? Because they do so much work abroad, they have attracted, or they want to attract, a board of directors that is very global and that has a lot of those international affairs type relationships. If you know the company Duolingo, yep, they do language. You can learn a language through them. They have a lot of people on their board from e-commerce, right? Because again, that's where they make their money. That's how they promote, right? So when you think about a board and why they have people on that board, it's not always industry. So, if Duolingo is the number one in their field, there's others doing it, but everyone knows Duolingo. If they're the number one, why would they hire, or why would they bring on a board member who used to work at a company that's their competitor that's a number two? Surely you're not going to teach me anything, right? So what they want are companies that are twice as big as them, CEOs who know how to grow companies from an e-commerce perspective, or they also have a lot of people from the educational space, right? So they want to understand that space and they want to expand into that space. So when you think about a board and their makeup, right, and why they bring in the people that they bring, it's because they want a different perspective. I was speaking to a client actually yesterday, and he's in healthcare. He's a CEO of a healthcare company. And he said, right, so a board in healthcare. I said, well, no, actually, why did you think it would be a healthcare company? He goes, well, that's what I know, right? That's my industry. That's all he's ever worked in. And I said, well, first of all, it could be a conflict of interest for your business. So for all of you CMOs out there who are thinking, well, I'm in this industry, so I'm going to stay in the industry. It's not like a job search. And so when I spoke to the healthcare client of mine yesterday, and I said, I actually want to challenge you to think about every industry other than healthcare. And he said, well, how am I going to think about it? And I said, well, there's two ways you want to think about it. One is, how do other businesses make money in the same way? So how do they generate cash, money, whatever it is? How do they, do business in exactly the same way, but in a totally different industry? So he started thinking about it. He was like, yeah, I guess consumer products, right? Food has a lot of regulation. It goes straight to the consumer. You have lots of pieces of the puzzle, the packaging, the branding, the this, the that. He said, yeah, actually, that is a space that I think I could work in. So just when you think about your board career, don't think about it one-dimensionally and don't think about it like a job search. Think about it a little differently and think about who needs you and also where are you going to be really valuable where there aren't a lot of you, right? So, don't go to a marketing agency and try and sit on their board, although a lot of them are not, they're partnerships, so they don't really have boards. But you get my gist, right? You want to be in a space where they don't have a marketing person, and that's an area that they don't do so well in, and they could possibly use your oversight.
And that makes total sense. You're there to help fill in any gaps in connections and in knowledge and skill and wisdom and experience. That makes a lot of sense.
So, so when it comes to Dana White and the role at Meta, there are a number of reasons why that maybe there's an entertainment perspective, right? That Meta, I think, have a lot of experience in, but they may want to take it to another level. There's also a television play. There's an entertainment from a media perspective. There's a media play, which Meta may not have had in the past. And so they may be looking to do that. Dana White has built an amazing business, right? And he built it from scratch and he built it against the odds. There were lots of people who said it would not work. There were even lots of people who said no one will watch women, doing fighting, and it's one of the biggest events at every event. So he's kind of gone against the odds. I'll also say this, that boards choose people that they trust and they like, and if a CEO trusts you and likes you and knows that you make good decisions, they're going to want you on their board because you're going to challenge them. That's what a board does. They challenge the CEO on the strategy, decision-making, M&A, anything that they're doing. And so having really smart minds around you, and I don't know Dana White, so I can't comment completely, but he seems very direct, right? When he approaches the media and when he's on TV, I feel like he's quite an authentic person. And if that's who he really is, maybe that's the kind of feedback, that's the kind of engagement that Meta and Mark and the other team on the board are looking for, right? They don't want someone who's just going to say, yes, I vote because everyone else voted. They're actually looking for someone who's going to question them and who's going to come with great ideas. So someone who has built a company with success like that is usually quite well sought after, but there's also a media play, an entertainment play, and a lot of other things that Meta could be interested in for their future strategy.
Also makes me wonder a little bit about the politics, because I know you mentioned the influence and whatnot, and I'm pretty sure Dana has a close relationship with the current president. So, if Meta needs to backtrack a little bit from some of their ways, having a good buddy, who knows the president might be a good idea right about now.
I mean, relationships matter, right, Casey? I mean,
Yeah.
I think, and even as a CMO, you can promote yourself as a board director, as someone who is well connected. Now, how do connections and relationships come into play in a board meeting? Well, it's not as obvious as, you come to a board meeting and you say, hey, Dana, introduced me to this, that, and the other person. I don't think it's like that. But I think when you need leverage and you need someone to go into a particular meeting with you, perhaps even with you, I've seen board members even set up meetings and help to coordinate, sometimes even attend meetings with the CEO. So there is a certain element of recognition of the individual and also trust, again, trust just generally in the marketplace and in government. If you also look at a lot of boards, you will see government representatives on boards. And yeah, that's, especially in pharma, especially in businesses where they rely quite heavily on, lobbying and things like that. So it makes perfect sense. And then also, industry experts can be very helpful. I know in the fintech world, often a fintech CEO, this isn't everywhere, but often the fintech CEO is a very highly, an amazing tech person, but they don't have the fin part of it. And so they bring in, ex Morgan Stanley, ex Goldman, ex JP Morgan, and they bring them in to kind of help them navigate the financial services space because that's where they're playing. So it's all about what is the CEO really good at? And then how is their board going to help their business grow? And it may be through relationships and other things that the individual will bring. But I will tell you this, a lot of it is about fit. So if the CEO likes you and can work with you, I've seen this happen a lot. Again, a big piece of advice for CMOs out there. Tell every CEO that you know that you are seeking a corporate board. They make a lot of big decisions at the board level, or at least recommendations. So
Love that. Let's talk prepping now. How do we gear ourselves for being ready? So when those conversations happen, we are prepared and ready to be impressive.
So a lot of it is about brand confidence, what you say, how you say it. So I would recommend this elevator pitch, right, for all these CMOs. Make sure you have a board-ready elevator pitch, really important. Make sure that you know what kind of boards you want to join, and then tell as many people as possible. But one big piece of advice, Casey, don't ever ask for help and don't ever ask for a favor. You don't want to look desperate and you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing and that, hey, Casey, I really need your help. Can you get me on a board, right? It should more be, hey, Casey, just want to let you know, this is my plan for 2025. I'm going to be joining corporate boards and here's my pitch and here's my bio and this is how ready I am. And these are the types of boards I'm going to be joining, right? You immediately will think, oh, wow, I'd love to recommend her. I'm going to look good if I recommend this person, right, onto board. So
Right.
you want to put your best foot forward, be board ready, say the right things, and just tell as many people as possible about your desire to join a corporate board. People generally want to help, but you don't have to ask for it. You just have to tell them and watch. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Love that. Put it out there.
Yep.
Hey, this is what I'm looking for.
That's right.
This is the thing that will excite me. And yeah, and speaking of that, I am looking to launch a podcast for a winery in Italy. So if anyone knows a winery in Italy, that is what I'm putting out there. Hey, my next question for you is, who are you? Who are you? How do you know these things? Take me back in time. Little Naomi days. Did you know you're going to be guiding senior leaders through the process of becoming board members?
No, Casey, I did not. This was not my dream when I was in my teens. But I went to. I'm half British, half American, and I went to university for my undergrad in London. And at the end of the program, at the end of the course, one of my sort of school buddies, right, called me and said, "Hey, I'm at this company called BoardX, and we build biographical profiles on board members, and we look at the relationship maps." And I was already lost. I didn't know what he was talking about, right? Board members? What's a board, right? So I went in for an interview, and I think because I had the recommendation, I don't know whether I passed the interview, but because I had the recommendation, I was brought in as a sort of junior research analyst. And I actually ended up working at that company for 14 years. And I moved to the United States with the company. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that it brought me. But one of the biggest opportunities that it brought me was the exposure to boards of directors and all of the businesses that surround them. And so I would work with private equity firms, investment banks, management consultants, corporate lawyers, recruiters, executive search firms, and they would tell me about, and they would show me how they interact with boards. And so I learned a huge amount about the ecosystem of boards. And it's not as obvious or as simple as like a job search. You go for a job search, you either ask your friends or you get a recruiter. Boards are not quite like that. And so I really understood that space. Then when I left BoardX in 2014, sorry, I went to a couple of other firms, but I was really longing to get back into this. I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the clients I was working with. I enjoyed the topics, and I had learned so much. I thought, well, I can't just waste this. So I ended up joining a professional network in 2018 and started actually working one-to-one with people who wanted to join boards. And with the certainly helped that I was around some great people there as well, and learned a lot about how to advise people on how to get on a board. Although I had a lot of really good tips and tricks that I didn't even know I had just from the work that I had done at BoardX. And then just last year, I was at a company that was also doing executive search. So I got a very inside sort of experience of how recruiting is done, even though I had worked with recruiters. I had never done the recruiting myself. So I did that too. And then finally last year, I launched my own business called the Boardroom Company. And I work one-to-one with people. I work in groups. Often corporations want me to work with their C-suite executives to get them board ready. And then I also do board retreats. So getting people board ready across a 2 to 3 day event in some very nice place somewhere. But yeah, and it's really a passion of mine. I found when I was at BoardX, this is very early days, I was fascinated about how people became board members. And I would really analyze people's profiles kind of in my spare time. It sounds a little strange, but I just found it fascinating to see where people came from. And big businesses would come up and this was all the starting businesses, things like, McKinsey, Bain. People had come from PwC, Deloitte, the Big Four, KPMG. People had often come from big firms like IBM, GE, right? And you could sort of see their training, where that came from, and then how they rose through the ranks and they perhaps became a CMO, maybe they became a CFO, and then how that sort of became a board role. And then we started analyzing the data because we had so much data and we started to see trends. And so I'll give you one example. We did a report a year and a half ago, and we found that brand new board directors of public companies were very likely to either be VP level or above, so VP, SVP, EVP, or C-suite of a public company, and have a private company board as either experience or today. So they had already been at a private company. So these are insights that I learn and that I share with my clients. So if someone's never been at a public company and they've never been at a private company board and they tell me they want to be on a public company board, I try and sort of say, well, listen, the stats are against you. However, it's not unlikely, but let's look at how do we get that private company board so we can then springboard to the larger publicly traded ones. Or you're in transition anyway. Why don't you think about getting an executive role at a public company, because it will increase your chances of getting a public company board. And believe it or not, a lot of people are planning their careers this way. They're actually thinking about the next 5 to 10 years, and they need guidance on how to grow their career so that they will be on bigger boards.
This is brilliant. And this ties into your services. Can people reach out to you to even have that conversation about, take a look at my LinkedIn, here's who I am. I'm curious, what are my, what do you see here, right? Just to even have those initial conversations. Is that something you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do sort of 15 to 30-minute consultations. What I do generally is I give people advice. What will work for them, where I think they should start their search, or how I think they should start thinking about their board career. Give them a lot of advice. And so I'm more than happy to speak to people. My website is theboardroomco.com. So it's the Boardroom Company.
Boardroom Co.
co.com. And yeah, you can just contact me through there. But yeah, no, I'm always happy to help people. And in fact, I do a lot of work with professional networks. Chief, IWF, Tiger 21, Vistage, also Executive
EO.
Forum. There you go. So, yep. So I've done a lot of work with them. I do a lot of speaking engagements with them, and
Yeah.
for many of these webinars, it's a complimentary presentation to see if people are interested and to see if people are serious about it. But certainly sharing my advice and guidance on it.
I've got some friends I should introduce you to that are in the later stages of their entrepreneur journey, and they might be great, very giving individuals, might be great for these boardroom roles. This is fantastic. Oh, my next question, and really last question for you, is a bit of a hypothetical question, if you're game.
Mhm.
Okay. You see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So I do. It's in the backyard, covered in a tarp. But so you come visit, do an event in Boston or whatnot for you, Boston. You come hang out. We use the time machine. You get to go back in time and meet yourself. And you get to meet yourself a couple days after getting that degree in London, your undergrad. You get to go meet that Naomi. What kind of advice would you tell her?
God, so in addition to my corporate career, I've been very passionate about having hobbies and things outside of work, and I've done a lot of long distance training, or I just like to long distance train. And I did 2 Ironman about 10 years ago, so I was in my sort of late 30s, and I, you know, I should have done it earlier, basically. So I would definitely go back and tell myself to get a bit more serious about some of the racing that I was doing. I think in my 20s, I was more interested in going out and having a good time after work rather than taking the time to actually train. So I probably would have been a much better athlete if I had done more training in my 20s. But I ended up doing a lot more of it in my 30s. But I did 2 back-to-back Ironman, loved every minute of it. I don't know if I could do a a marathon today, but I do a lot of other sort of athletic, challenges. I like to challenge myself. So yeah, it would probably be get a bit more serious a little bit early on and see if I could have actually won something. I think I'm one of those people that always compete in everything, but I never win. So maybe if I put some effort into it, that may have been the case. So I would definitely say that. I also uh, the opportunity I had at BoardX actually led me to New York and the USA, and I got my green card and I got citizenship later. And I'm forever grateful for that opportunity and to be here, and I love being here. And I think that I sort of just fell into the opportunity. I didn't sort of go out to find it, but yeah, I think I would recommend, and it's something I did, so I don't know if it's something I would go back and tell myself, but I would definitely give that advice to people to say, it's great to explore other countries, other places, other cities, because you can do that when you're young, and you never know. Like me, you might still end up being in that country because you love it so much. So I'm now down in Florida in the palm trees here in February. So it's, I can't complain. So I would say, just continue to travel and explore and not fear change. I think you shouldn't fear change.
That's brilliant. Do you think younger you would listen to you?
I don't know. Probably not. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably not about the athletic part. No, I think I would still say no. I'm going out. It's Saturday night. I'm going to go out. I'm not going to wake up early and train. So you're right. Sometimes you have to get certain things out of your system. So I did that. Let's just say that.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Where can people reach out? I know you mentioned the URL again, but is LinkedIn good? What are the different places you want people to?
LinkedIn's great. I'm pretty active on there. So it's just you can look me up, Naomi Kent, but Naomi Kent Boards or something like that, and you'll probably find me. And yeah, I'd love to speak to people. And like I said, I can do consultation, and I'll be happy to speak to groups or educate younger people too. Actually, just to finish off there, I do a lot of speaking at universities to really encourage the younger crowds to think about community boards and to think about building their careers there. And Also, with companies in the financial services industry, they tend to be more highly regulated, and so they restrict people, their employees, from getting onto corporate boards, but they can get on community boards. And so I do a lot of education around why that's important, and yeah, and I know a lot of nonprofit boards that are looking for people as well. So, and corporate boards. So I try to make those connections where I can as well.
That's brilliant. So many opportunities here. My mind is swirling around. I'm sure everyone else listening is too. Thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like this was a masterclass in CMO to board role, and I'm sure it's just the tip of the iceberg. And the folks that are interested, they should reach out. This sounds like a fantastic way to give back, but also grow and potentially grow the piggy bank as well. So all good things. But thank you for coming on here.
Thank you, Casey. Really enjoyed it. Glad I could share these insights with your CMO audience.
Yes, absolutely. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back.
A lot of notes.
That is a lot of notes. Then share this with someone else. One person. That's thought leadership. Good information to the right people's hands. Maybe someone listening knows someone else who should be on a board or might be on their way to retirement, but this could be that purpose that they're looking for. So definitely, if it's you or someone share this information with them. With that, Naomi, thank you again.
Thanks so much.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.